Beginning the presentation. At the beginning of your presentation, there are usually 3 things that you need to do. And the first of those is greet your audience. Also, when you're not presenting within your own organization, so when you're presenting to people that may not know you, you need to introduce yourself and say which company you represent. It's also helpful to say something about yourself and to welcome your audience. Greeting your audience is usually what you start with. Apart from it being the polite thing to do, it's also important to make your audience feel welcome. Doing this helps to build what's called rapport between you and your audience. You want to build a good relationship with the people you're presenting to, and greeting them before you get to the actual presentation is an important part of that. If you're presenting to a group of people that you don't know, or to people who don't know you, it's important to introduce yourself by mentioning your name and, for example, the organization that you're working for. Just like when greeting your audience, it helps to build rapport. Also, it helps the audience to put you into a certain context as a speaker. Like in this example. Hello, I'd like to welcome you here all this morning. I am Jill Anderson of Anderson & Brand International. In this example, it's likely that the audience will link the name Jill Anderson to the company's name, Anderson & Brand International. This information may give the audience an idea of Jill's position in the company, adding to her credibility as a speaker. This is not always necessary, of course. Sometimes saying your name and mentioning how the opportunity to speak makes you feel is enough to build rapport. Like in this example. Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here today. My name is Pete Jones. Sometimes it may be helpful to mention your name together with the name of your company if your company has a good reputation in your field, or if it's particularly well known. Like here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I am Rebecca Ferris of KPMG. Similar to the first example, mentioning your name together with the name of a respected company could positively affect the impact your presentation has on the people that are going to listen to you. After you've greeted your audience and have introduced yourself, it's often helpful to say something about yourself. Not only does this help your audience to relate to you on a more personal level, it's also an opportunity for you as a speaker to showcase your expertise. Here's an example. Before I continue, let me tell you something about myself. I've been working for Anderson & Brand for 7 years. Letting the audience know that you've been working for the company that you're representing for 7 years tells the audience how much experience you have and how dedicated you are to the company. This could make what you're going to say more credible because your audience is more likely to assume that you know what you're talking about because of your experience. If you have a lot of experience in a certain field but have worked for a number of companies during your career instead of just one, you could use a sentence like this. My career in finance began in the late 1990s when I joined, and then you add the name of your company. It tells the audience how experienced you are. And if you add the companies that you've worked for in the past, along with the job titles that you've held, it could tell the audience something about your skill set. The following sentence works in a similar way. My experience in the field of environmental preservation started when, and then you mention an experience that had an impact on your career. You may want to use a sentence like this when you are a freelancer, for example, or when you're not representing an organization. Welcoming your audience is also important when you begin your presentation, and it is often combined with thanking your audience for the opportunity to speak. Like here. Welcome to Google. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today. This sentence not only expresses that you're glad that your audience showed up, but by expressing that you're grateful for the opportunity to speak, you're also expressing a level of humility. You're putting yourself on the same level as your audience, and when your audience feels they are more or less the same as you, they're more likely to be interested in what you have to say. In other words, this way of welcoming your audience also builds rapport. Just like the following sentence. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you today. By using this sentence, you're positioning yourself as a guest of the audience, which suggests that you aren't there to tell them what to do or what to believe, but that you are there with them to discuss the topic of your talk together. You're putting yourself on the same level. Now let's look at this sentence. Welcome everybody. I appreciate the chance to talk to you this afternoon. This sentence works in the same way as the previous one. It builds rapport between you and your audience by pointing out that you are there because of them. So, to conclude, a successful presentation starts with an effective opening during which you greet your audience and introduce yourself. You provide some background information about yourself and you welcome your audience by expressing your gratitude for the opportunity to speak. If you do this well, you will set yourself up for a successful presentation.